organization. One of the hallmarks of people that have really good self-management and self-regulation is their trustworthiness and their integrity. In other words, because they're not going to lose it, they're not going to blow it. You don't walk in and say, hey, how's our boss doing? Is it a good day or bad day? You know what's going to happen. They're also comfortable with ambiguity because they don't always have to be right. They don't have to be in control of everything, except who? Who's the only person they're in control of? Themselves. You got it. And since they're in control of themselves, the rest of the world can be chaotic. The rest of the world can have ambiguity. People that are not in control of themselves, that have a high degree of internal insecurity, anxiety, try to make everything around them work. That's where obsessive-compulsive disorder comes from. I'm anxious inside and I don't feel good, so if I at least keep my room clean, or if my bathroom is clean, then at least I feel like I have control of something in my life and it's okay. So if someone comes in and moves the toothpaste, I freak out because you're messing with my world. And you're thinking, it's toothpaste. It's not that big a deal. They're also extremely open to change because they're grounded and they're centered. They know where they're at, and so as things change and move along, they will kind of float with that and have some fun. This is worth jotting down. This is a note that's worth taking back. There's this huge debate about, is conflict good, is conflict bad? You know, do we yell, do we not yell, where do we go, what needs to happen? I got this from a guy named Patrick Lencioni, who wrote a couple of great books, and one of them is called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I highly recommend this. He picks 5 dysfunctions that most teams have. Now, that was what tripped all this. Oakcraft called me and asked me to come in, and they said, we've got some new supervisors and we're having a few, process issues. Chris, could you come in and maybe do like a training class for a day with our supervisors? And I said, sure. It had been a couple years since I'd been back, and I was in Phoenix on other business, and I said, yeah, it'd be great, let's do it. So we have the training class, and afterwards, were you in that first one? And it went good, Yeah. And I leave, and Wendy calls me back the next day and said, hey, I talked to my supervisors, and they really liked what you did. As a matter of fact, they said it was helpful. Could you come back and do another one? I said, sure. So I came back and I did another one, and it went pretty good, and left. A week later, Wendy calls, you know what? These guys are still talking about your training class. I'm thinking, could you maybe come once a month for the next year? I said, let me look at my schedule and see what we can do. And so we did. We set it up. Then the third month, we really kind of got down to turkey, and I shared with these guys the 5 dysfunctions of a team and how it worked. Nobody was laughing. And you know how we've been kind of having fun and laughing and going? Nobody was laughing. It wasn't going very good. And our Finnish guy, Tim, what's Tim's last name? Wetlake, yeah, Tim Wetlake, who hadn't been super vocal, just face turns bright red, veins are popping out. And he's like, Chris, you don't understand. We're not the ones that need this. Danny and Win and Greg, they need it. We don't need it. You need to go talk to those guys. And John was the next one. Yeah, they need it. You need to talk to them. Because we went and did this whole assessment of the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And they did not rate it very high. So I said, okay, and then we went around the room, and almost everybody in the room said, we're not the ones that need this, the executive team does. Now, what does that tell me about the supervisor group? Do they need it? Yeah! But they were in so much pain, they wanted someone else to work on it before they worked on their own. So I made them a deal. I said, you guys need to work on your stuff, I'll help with them. So I go in the executive team and I said, okay, so I want you guys to rate yourself. Now this is a 1 to 10 scale on 20 questions around the 5 dysfunctions of a team. The average gap between the supervisors and the executive team was 11 points. Now I want you to think about this. They didn't fire me. How many of you guys, if you hired a consultant, came in and he gave you that, would just say, we need a better consultant? And this is where I want to ask you to look at this idea of emotional intelligence. Despite all that stuff that was going on, collectively as a group, the leadership team said, you know what? Will you help us? And their response was not to be defensive, was not to be angry. What they said is, it was like a collective, and I don't want to say a sigh, but it was a hope. The collective group said, you know what? If we address this, we can build on time, we can ship on time, we can become profitable. And that was kind of the turning point. So this 5 dysfunctions of a team, it's a worthwhile read, it's an easy book to read, has some nice information in it. What Patrick basically said is this: if you're going to function, look at this as a continuum that moves from left to right. right. On this left side, I have right side for you, I have artificial harmony. Are there marriages, families, departments, and businesses that have artificial harmony? And it's saccharine, and it's sweet, and we're nicey nice, and we don't ever bring up bad issues or anything like that. On the other side, are there families, are there departments, are there marriages, and are there organizations that are just mean-spirited? And it's just brutal, it's ruthless. And could you be in a meeting, and we're discussing an option or a plan or a new deal, or you might want to get up, and Chris, could you be passionate, not really having a lot of self-awareness today, not really doing good on self-regulation, and slide right over to that mean-spirited side and let Suzanne know exactly what's going on and why she needs to suck it up and carry her weight because you're tired of dragging the whole thing around? Could that happen, not for you, but for someone else in your position? Yes, I think so too. And we can, could you in the same meeting slide up and down this scale? And what Patrick said is, there is an ideal point of conflict. That you get out of the artificial harmony where you're speaking the truth, especially speaking the truth to power. And you're short of the mean-spirited, sarcastic, personal attacking stuff that kind of makes you dysfunctional, less effective. That point is reached through self-management and self-regulation. By being able to be self-aware about who you are and then knowing your own disruptive moods and impulses and what gets in trouble. You guys have spent a little bit of time with me. Do you think I could from time to time get a little intense? Get a little angry? If you were a child in my home, could you be fearful from time to time if I were your dad? Yes, you could. And I grew up in a really good Irish Catholic alcoholic family, and you know, that was the way we did life. I mean, that's really what happened. And I have to share with you that being able to develop this self-regulation is one of the most critical skills to being able to move forward, to being able to truly influence people in the way that you'd like them to go. I call this the fairy dust principle. People hire me to fix their companies. And I'll often ask me, well, how long have things been bad? About 10 years. I said, so you've been 10 years screwing up your company, and now you want to pay me to fix it in a day. Do you see anything wrong with this? Because I do. And what they basically want you to do is come in with fairy dust and sprinkle it, right, on their company and make everything better. And I call this the fairy dust principle, and it comes, Peter Block was one of my heroes. When I went to school and I got a master's degree in organizational development, he was one of the guys we studied. And his point was this, that we as leaders and organizations need to learn how to point to problems without necessarily solving them. Because we don't have the answer, but to cover up or to deny it or to make fun of it, or I love this answer. I have an open door policy, and if you ever want to come in and talk, that's great, but don't bring me problems, just bring me solutions. To which I say, and why the hell do we need you? That obviously there's not a solution to the problem, or what would we have done? Solved it. And the only way we're going to solve it is to have dialogue where we get enough perspective, welcome guys, where we get enough perspective to solve it. Does that make sense? So what Peter Block said is that it's a misuse of our power as leaders and managers to take responsibility for solving problems that belong to others. Would you all agree with that? And at the same time, it's our task as leaders and managers to keep a constant dialogue going about the problem and ask people to diagnose and resolve them, become a resource for listening, for talking, for suggesting strategies, for having them go through. The key is to tell the truth about difficult issues. How many of you guys, I want you to think, don't say this out loud, I want all of you to think of one issue that you know is a problem in your organization, but you also know you're not supposed to talk about it. Or in a marriage, we just don't go there. Finances in a lot of marriages, because people can't talk about it because they can't tell the truth. Next one, motivation. It's a passion for work that goes beyond money and status. And I get teased about this a lot, but I have a deep belief on this one. If all you work for is money, there's no passion that goes beyond what you get for, you become what I call a cabinet prostitute. Now I want you to think about this. In prostitution, do you trade sex for money? But there's no intimacy, right? There's no love, there's no connection. It's a straight up trade. That's why we call it prostitution. Are there people who are medical prostitutes and just trade time for dollars? Accounting prostitutes.